Welcome back. I'm Samantha Jellison with Securely Insured, and this is Medicare on the Mind. Today we're going to talk about enrollment periods. There's quite a few that you need to be aware of, and they're going to be broken down into specific enrollment periods for different areas of Medicare. So let's get started. I'm going to share my screen and we are going to go for it. Okay, so to begin, we're going to talk about enrollment periods for Parts A and B, which we now know is Original Medicare. So when you are turning 65, you have what is known as an IEP, otherwise known as Initial Election or Enrollment Period. This starts 3 months before your 65th birthday, the month of your birthday, and 3 months following your birthday. And basically, it gives you a 7-month window to enroll in Parts A and B. If you miss this election period or enrollment period, and you don't qualify for what's known as a special election period, you may have to wait for what's known as general election period, which runs from January 1st to March 31st. And if you do have to wait because you missed your initial enrollment period, you may incur a late enrollment penalty. You don't want to miss that period of time, and although there are circumstances that can lead to missing that period, and we'll get into that. But for right now, this is what is known as your IEP. Now, moving on, we did mention something called a special enrollment period. So that we are going to call a SEP. And we're going to separate these out a little bit. So special enrollment periods are, and this is just for enrolling into that Part A and B, these typically become available when you have loss of creditable coverage. That means that if you were working or if you retired and you still had employer sponsored health insurance, let's say sometimes when you retire, your company will continue to pay your health insurance for a specified period of time. Once that is no longer available, you have what is known as a special enrollment period. So that is one reason why you may be eligible for a special enrollment period. So we're going to put loss of, and remember that has to be creditable coverage, because otherwise you have missed your deadline, so to speak. The part about if you've been working past 65 and you had employer-sponsored coverage, you may have up to 8 months following the loss of that coverage to enroll in Parts A and B. Then, if we move on, we mentioned briefly the general enrollment period. If you were to miss your IEP and you are not eligible for a special enrollment period, a SEP, then you have a general enrollment period each year, which runs from January 1st through March 31st. And this is your opportunity to enroll in Parts A and B. And that about covers all your enrollment periods for enrolling into Part A and B. So that can get a little confusing for some, because what happens is we talked a little bit about original Medicare, Medicare Advantage, and Medicare supplements. I'm trying to divide this so it makes more sense, and I'm going to erase the majority of this so we can move on to the next part. Medicare Advantage plans have slightly stricter rules when it comes to your enrollment periods. And we remember now that Parts A and B are original Medicare. You need Parts A and B to enroll in a Medicare Advantage plan or a Medigap or Medicare Supplement plan. So moving on to Medicare Advantage plans, you have quite a few options here. And again, please excuse my messy writing. It's not easy writing on an iPad. But enrollment periods for Medicare Advantage plans are, you have what is known as your ICEP. This plan is your initial coverage enrollment plan. And usually this is used when you are first signing up for Parts A and B. So you would get your A and B, your original Medicare, and right around the same time you would also enroll in a Medicare Advantage plan. It's the same 7-month window following or in conjunction with your birthday and enrolling in Parts A and B. So if your birthday is June, then you have March, April, May, June, July, August, and September to enroll in Parts A and B, as well as a Medicare Advantage plan. Now if you miss that window for enrolling into a Medicare Advantage plan, but you still have your Parts A and B, then you have what is known as opportunities called special enrollment periods for Medicare Advantage. And there's lots of options here. You can have a special enrollment period if you move out of one service area into another. If you lost employer coverage, if you lost or gained Medicaid, if there was a FEMA disaster declared in your area, or if you become eligible for a chronic special needs plan. And what that means is if you were recently diagnosed with a chronic condition such as heart disease or diabetes, there are specifically tailored plans, Medicare Advantage plans, for those conditions. And that will depend on the availability in your area. And then finally, one more reason why you might have a special election period is, and it happens seldomly, but it does happen, is if your plan is no longer available. Sometimes a Medicare Advantage plan will become unavailable. They will end a plan in certain areas, and that also gives you a special election period They do have to notify you if that's going to happen, and typically it happens at the end of the year, so you do have other enrollment periods outside of that that you would not really need a special election period for. But basically, those would be your special election periods. And then the more well-known one is known as annual enrollment period. And this is a time when anyone can make a choice to change their Medicare Advantage plan. You can also elect to drop your Medicare Advantage plan and go back to original Medicare and attempt to enroll in a Medicare supplement along with that. This runs from October 15th through December 7th every year. What I like to tell people is that you are not married to your plan, and plans can change year to year. There are changes to formularies, there are changes to networks, and sometimes a plan that you have been on for, let's say, a few years is no longer working for you. This is the time frame where you can make a change, and that's why it's very important to work with a professional who can listen to your needs and help you decide which plan may fit them a little better. And if you decide not to change your plan during this time, you will automatically be enrolled in the same plan starting on January 1st. Plan years always run from January 1st to December 31st. So even if you make a change in your plan on October 15th, it will not take effect until January 1st of the following year. And then one more would be called open enrollment period. Now, this is specific to Medicare Advantage plans. It runs from January 1st to March 31st. And what it is an opportunity to make a one-time change to your Medicare Advantage plan. Perhaps you enrolled in a plan back during annual enrollment period and you gave it about a month, so the month of January. Some of your doctors may not have been in network, some of your prescriptions may not have been covered on the formulary, and you're just not happy with the plan. You can make that change during this time. And when you do, it is one time and one time only. So whatever you decide to change to during OEP, typically, unless you have a special election period, you will be in this plan until the end of the year. And that pretty much covers all of the enrollment periods for Medicare Advantage. Moving on, we will talk about enrollment periods for Medicare supplements, because this does differ a little bit and there's some very important information to know regarding this. And when it comes to Medicare supplements, your enrollment period into a Medigap plan or Medicare supplement, we'll call it Medigap for the sake of ease, is going to be a 6-month window following the month you turn 65 and are enrolled in Part B. The good thing about this is that because Medigap plans are by private insurance companies, and normally outside of your personalized enrollment period for a Medigap plan, you could be denied based on pre-existing conditions. You could be denied based on medications. Really, they have some pretty stringent underwriting. And the issue here is that if you decide to go with a Medigap plan, you get a 6-month period to enroll in any plan you choose, and they cannot deny you. You are automatically enrolled. Let's see, so there's no underwriting, and you are guaranteed issue. And guaranteed renewable, meaning that they can never deny you coverage for this plan based off of pre-existing conditions, medication, anything. If you were to suddenly have cancer, they cannot take you off this plan. And when you enroll during this period, you get the best rate possible. Now we know that Medigap plans increase year over year. However, this is the time to lock in the lower rate. And really, if you are happy with your plan, it is one of those set it and forget it. You don't need to manage it or change it. You can move and usually keep it, and usually keep it at the rate in which you bought it. However, if you were to miss that 6-month window, then you will have to undergo underwriting. So one thing to keep in mind is that you will have to undergo underwriting. You may be denied. You may possibly not be able to get the plan that you want. And it's recommended that if you decide to go the route of a Medigap plan, that you enroll in that within the 6 months of turning 65 and enrolling in Part B. One thing that might not be well known is that in some states, not all states, but in some states, you might have an opportunity to enroll each year into a new Medigap plan based on the birthday rule. And what that is a guaranteed issue, meaning you can get whichever plan you sign up for each year on the month of your birthday. Like I said, not all states, not available in all states. And your rate could go up. So if you decide to go from a Plan G to a high deductible Plan G, typically your rate will go down. If you go from a high deductible G to a Plan G, then your rate will typically go up. And you can technically shop for a Medigap plan year-round. The only issue is knowing whether or not you will qualify for underwriting. So if you're healthy and you're without many conditions or pre-existing conditions or medications, you can shop around. It never hurts to look to see if you can find a lower rate. However, if you have acquired medical conditions, don't cancel your plan currently until you know you've been accepted and not denied by your next plan. And that concludes our enrollment period talk for today. Again, I am Samantha Jellison of Securely Insured, and this is Medicare on the Mind. Please stay tuned for our next episode, and we will be taking a deeper dive into Medicare Advantage versus Medicare supplements. Thanks, and have a great day.